Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru-paramparam. Om Sahana-vavatu Sahana-bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. So we are on Shiksha Valli, and anybody remembers how many upasanas we have completed and the names? Small homework. Come on, guys. What was the first upasana?
Samhitopasana.
Samhitopasana. Second one?
Vyarati.
Then?
Hiranyagarbha.
Hiranyagarbha. The last one?
Prithivya. No, this Panktam.
Panktam upasana. Okay, so now we are going on to another one, which is the Pranavopasana or the Om Bhumpasana. So I will request Arvindji to just chant out the 8th Anuvaka, starting with Om Iti Brahma. For those who are using the Mantra Pushpam, it's on page number 20. The heading is Pranavopasanam.
Om Omiti Brahma Omitidagam Sarvam Omityetadanukritihatmava Apyoshravayetyaashravanti Omiti Samani Gayanti Ogum Shomiti Shastrani Shagam Santi ओमित्यध्वर्युः प्रतिगरं प्रतिगृह्णाति ओमिति ब्रह्मा प्रसौति ओमित्यग्निहोत्रमनुजानाति ओमिति ब्राह्मणः प्रवक्ष्यन्नाह ब्रह्मोपाप्नवानीति ब्रह्मैवोपाप्नोति.
Thank you, Arvind. So I'll just go through the meanings first, just the brief meanings, and then we look at the explanation. So Om Iti Brahma. So Om, one has to supply here. One has to do upasana on Om, Brahma Iti, as Brahman. Om should be considered as Brahman. Why? That is the next part of the mantra. The reason why is given. Why one should meditate upon Om or Omkara as Brahman? Because Sarvam Idam Om Iti. Om Iti Sarvam Idam. All this, everything here is Omkara eva. And Etad Om, this Omkara, Etad Om Iti, this Omkara, Hasmavai. Hasmavai are particles for giving specific emphasis. They don't have any particular meaning. So Hasmavai for emphasis. Emphasizing what? That Etad Om, this Omkara, Anukritihi. Anukriti means to accept something. So this Omkara is also, spoken as an expression of acceptance. What this means, when we come to the explanation, we'll see. Api, moreover, Ashravayanti. Ashravayanti means the priest, the Yajurveda priest, he directs the other priests to Shravayan, to recite the mantras. Iti. In what manner? O Shravayaha, may you recite to the gods. And Gayanti, that means these mantras are sung by the Samaveda priests. Gayanti, when you say, it is singing, and the Veda which is amenable to singing is Samaveda. So Gayanti refers to Samaveda priests. And Samani. So Om Shravaya Gayanti Samani. The Samaveda priests, they sing the Samani, the Sama mantras. How? Iti Om. After uttering Omkara first. And then Samsanti, the Rigveda priests, they chant what? Shastrani, the Rigveda mantras. Iti, again, iti means what? After uttering Om Shom. After saying Om, they chant the mantras. And Ardhavyuhu, the Advaryuhu, the Yajurveda priest. The Yajurveda priest is called the Advaryu. So the Advaryuhu, Pratiganati, he says or he expresses what? Pratigaram. Pratigaram means granting permission. He expresses, he gives permission by saying what? Iti Om, by uttering Omkara. And Brahma Prasauti, the Atharvana Veda priest, he Prasauti, he gives permission again. Iti Om, by uttering Omkara. Anujanati, that priest permits Agnihotram, the Agnihotram ritual to be done. Again, Iti Om, by uttering Omkara. Pravaksyan, desiring to learn the mantras. Brahmanaha aha. So here Brahmanaha is the student. The student utters Om iti. Omkara he utters. And Upapavani. Let me attain this Vedic knowledge. Upapanvani. Let me attain this Vedic knowledge. Eva upapnoti. He attains Brahma. This Vedic knowledge he attains. Very briefly, this is only the word meanings. It will become more clear as we talk. So here a new upasana is being introduced, and this is the final upasana of this section. It is called the Pranavopasana. And Pranava, of course, means Om. And Om is taken as a symbol, the alambanam on which we invoke Saguna Ishvara. So it is also called the Pratika. Pratika is a symbol on which Ishvara is invoked. So any symbol is Pratika. So we already said earlier that in any ritual that you begin, in any upasana that you do, and any karma that you do, Om is essential for the beginning and the end. So Om is a anga. It is part of every single upasana. It is part of every single karma. In the Vedic tradition, no upasana or karma can begin without chanting Omkara. And what can this Omkara represent? It can represent Virat. So, depending upon the context, you will find that when you use the word Om, the scripture uses it to represent separate entities. So, one is Virat. Virat is Samashti Sthula Shariram, the gross universal body. It can also be used to represent Karya Brahman. Karya Brahman, remember the name Karya Brahman is basically Karya means product. So you'll wonder that when you say Karya Brahman, how can Brahman be a product? So remember here, Brahma is not Nirguna Brahma, it is Saguna Brahma. And therefore, can you guess which is Karana Brahma and which is Karya Brahma? There are two terms which are normally used. One is Karya Brahma, product Brahma, and one is Karana Brahma, the cause Brahma. So in whatever we have studied so far, which is Karya Brahma and which is Karana Brahma? I've already given you a clue by saying Virat.
Karya Brahma is Hiranyagarbha.
Okay.
And Karana Brahma is Ishvara.
Antaryami.
Antaryami Ishvara.
Antaryami.
Why is that so? Why is it so?
Because Hiranyagarbha is the womb, the golden womb. And
for Virat.
Antaryami, and Antaryami, the Samashti Karan Sharira.
So remember Tattva from Antaryami, Hiranyagarbha is born. Samashti Karna Shariram is the Karanam for Samashti Sukshma Shariram. Therefore, the Samashti Karana Shariram, which is Antaryami, is also called Karana Brahma, is also called Ishvara. And when you say Brahmaji, you are talking about Hiranyagarbha, Samashti Sukshma Shariram, also called Karya Brahma. Okay. If you look at these two, Antaryami and Hiranyagarbha, there is a cause-effect relationship. If you look at Hiranyagarbha and Virat, there is also a cause-effect relationship. But in the terminology being used, whenever you say Karana Brahma, it means Antaryami, Ishvara. Whenever you say Karya Brahma, it means Hiranyagarbha, Samashti, Shukshma Shariram. The Samashti Sthula Shariram is normally referred to as Virat. Of course, in different contexts, we say the physical world is also Ishvara. That depending upon the context, you have to understand the meaning. And that's why he says Om iti Brahma. The iti of Om indicates that the word Om, that when you utter Om here in this particular mantra, it refers to the word Om and not to its meaning, right? And Brahman, therefore, Om is equal to Brahma. Which Brahma is this? Brahma is Saguna Brahman. Remember that Brahman, Nirguna Brahman, can never be an object of meditation. It is always Saguna Brahman, which is an object of meditation. And we studied this in an earlier Upanishad. There is a pramanam to say that Saguna Brahman is the only object of meditation, only object of upasana. Nirguna Brahman can never be an object of upasana. What is the mantra? Very, very famous mantra. It should be etched in your mind. Okay, I'll give you one clue. Keno Upanishad. Mantras have to be kept in mind. Otherwise, now itself, the connection becomes difficult. When you study Brahma Sutra, you'll be completely at sea if you don't know the meanings. So, Tadeva Brahma Tvam Vidhi. What does it mean? What is the next line? Tadeva Brahma Tvam Vidhi. Then Nedam Ididam Upasate. That is why in your daily Parayanam, one Upanishad has to be included. Over a period of time, at least the 6 or 7 that we are going to be studying, you should be able to, at least recall that, okay, this mantra appears there. Okay, so Tadeva Brahma Tvam Vidhi, know that what you meditate upon is not the meditator, the one who is doing the meditation. You are the meditator. Nedam idam upasate, not that on which you meditate. So Saguna Brahman is the Brahman on which you meditate, but you, the Nirguna Brahman, can never be meditated upon. And therefore here Upanishad says, may you meditate upon Omkara. And why does he choose Omkara? He says, Om iti idam sarvam. Om iti idam sarvam. All this is Omkara alone. How do you arrive at this meaning? I told you a small story that everything is Omkara alone. What is the meaning of this? We talked about a story, given in the scriptures actually, where Brahmaji extracted the essence of the 3 Upanishads. What was the essence? From each Upanishad, he extracted one line. And that became a mantra. What was the name of that mantra?
Gayatri Mantra.
Gayatri Mantra. Okay, so the Gayatri Mantra is the essence of 3 Upanishads. And then Brahmaji further condensed the Gayatri mantra into what?
Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha.
Om Bhur 3 Vyaratis. And the 3 Vyaratis were further condensed into a Oma, which is Om. That's the story. And that is why, since, it's like extracting the juice of a mango and converting it into powder. The powder is the essence. So what has happened is, here the juice of the 3 Vedas have been extracted, made into Gayatri Mantra, further extracted, condensed into 3 Vyaratis, further extracted into the monosyllabled Om. So Omkara, therefore, is the very essence of all the Vedic mantras, of all the 3 Upanishads. And that's why he says, Om iti idam sarvam. Idam sarvam is what? The entire world. And therefore, entire world is what? Ishvara. Ishvara condensed is Om. And therefore, Omkara chanting, if you don't have the time to chant the Vedas or all the Vedic mantras, Omkara chanting every day is said to be as good as chanting all the Vedic mantras. There is a note, of course, here. When we are doing Upasana, he's saying you use Om as the alambanam for the Upasana, right? So this Om which you use, remember that the word Om is a sound. It's a Shabda Rupa. It is in the form of a sound. So very often when we say Om, we think of the symbol for Om, right? The U with a tail below it. That tail, that really speaking, that is not even a part of the Sanskrit alphabet. It does not exist, right? And that Om is therefore an image. That image is a khichdi. It consists of A plus U plus Ma. It's a combination. And what therefore, when Shankaracharya in his commentary says that this Om, remember, when you say use for an alambanam, use as a substratum for the upasana, he is talking about the Shabda Rupa Om. The word, the sound of Om has to be used. And Om is not a form for visualization. A lot of people, when they do meditation, they use Om, but not as the sound. They use Om as the symbol. And this clarification is given by Shankara to tell us that trying to visualize this Om symbol is not sanctioned by Shastram at all. And so Shankara says, Shabda Matra Api. This Om is only in the form of sound. You should not be using it as a symbol, because anyway, the symbol really doesn't exist. Whenever you see Sanskrit alphabet, so that particular symbol is there nowadays, that really is not there in the original alphabet. And so Shankara says, Sarvam Shabda Swarupam. Can you understand? Sarvam Shabda Swarupam. The form of every single word, Omkarena Vyaptam, is pervaded by Omkara. Okay, the entire, any word you take, it is pervaded by Omkara. To explain that, any object you take in this creation, you take a glass. Okay. Now, what is the Shabda? The Shabda for this is glass, right? So the Pada, in Sanskrit, the Pada, the word is glass. The Pada Artha is the object. Pada is the word. The object represented by that word is called the Padartha, right? And here, Shankara is saying that every single word is pervaded by Omkara, right? So if you extract the essence from all the words in creation, or any of the words in creation, or even one word in creation, what is obtained is Omkara alone. And to understand this, let us take the concept of the clay. The clay pervades the pot. So here Shankara says every word is pervaded by Omkara. We are taking the example of the material clay, the Upadana Karanam, clay, which pervades the pot, right? And therefore, when you extract the essence of the pot, what do you get? You get clay alone, right? In other words, clay is the Karanam, pot is the Karyam. And if you apply that particular analogy here, any word you take in creation, that word is the Karyam. Now, what is the Karanam for that word? It is Omkara alone. Because Omkara is that which pervades all the words, like the clay pervades all the clay objects. And therefore, the essence of all the clay objects is clay alone. The Karanam alone pervades the Karyam. You must remember that Vedantic rule. The cause alone pervades the product. Omkara is the cause, the words are the product, and therefore Omkara alone pervades all the words. And therefore, if you extract the essence of all the words, it is Omkara alone. Okay, one more step from there. Every word in creation represents what? Every word in creation represents what? It's nothing, it's no great question. Okay, it's a very simple question.
Some
How?
object.
Some objects. So every word represents some object, and every object in the world has got a word representing it. And if you add the totality of all the objects in the world, living and non-living, what do you get?
Om.
No. All the objects in the world you put together, what is it that you get?
Virat.
You get Virat. You get the entire creation, right? You get Ishvara. So you're talking about gross. Supposing you are saying, words are not there only for gross, right? You have words representing gross elements. You have words representing sukshma elements. You have words representing karana elements also. And therefore, if you put all the words together, you get the entire creation itself. The entire creation is what? What is another name for entire creation?
Jagat.
Jagat.
Maya. Jagat.
Anybody else want to try? The whole creation is what? Chapter 11. Bhagavad Gita is Ishvara alone. And therefore, when you put all the words together, the entire creation comes into being. The entire creation is Ishvara alone. And I said, when you extract the essence from all the words, you are getting Omkara alone. When you extract the essence of all entire creation, you get Ishvara alone. And therefore, you can meditate upon Omkara, because Omkara is nothing else but Ishvara. Right? Remember that every word in creation refers to a particular object. Right? So, for example, you take the mouse. The mouse represents only this object. You take the spoon, the glass. The glass represents only this object. You take Lord Shiva. It represents Shiva body. You take Krishna, particular deity. Right? But we are saying that the world consists of all these objects, right? You put Krishna and Shiva and the satellites and the sun and the moon and the jivas together, everything together is Ishvara. And therefore, no individual word can reveal Brahman, because Brahman is the totality. Brahman includes all the objects. And therefore, if you want one word which has to reveal that Brahman, you'll have to get the essence of all the words. Like, for example, you take several ornaments. You have a necklace, you have a ring, you have a gold brick, and they all have different names. One is got necklace as a name, one is got bangle as a name, one is got ring as a name, one is got toe ring as a name. Each object has different names. But if you want to use one name to represent all the objects, which name would you use? Gold, obviously, right? Why? Because gold is the essence of all these objects. And similarly, you cannot use any one word to reveal Brahman, because Brahman is the totality of the universe. And therefore, if you want to use one word to reveal that Brahman, that Saguna Brahman, you have to extract. And that extracted word is called Om. So Om does not represent any particular object. But if you look at the breakup, A represents all Sthula objects, U represents all Sukshma objects, Ma represents all Karana objects, and therefore Om represents the totality of Sthula, Sukshma, Karana Padarthas, which means totality of Sthula universe, Sukshma universe, Karana universe, which is the totality called the Lord, called Ishvara. And that's why Om iti idam sarvam. This is why you meditate upon Om. Okay, I'll stop here because this is a very important understanding of Om, which you don't find anywhere else. And therefore, if there are any questions, you should ask now. Why we meditate upon Om? Why we consider that Om represents the entire universe? Why we consider that Om represents Ishvara? All that we have just discussed. Okay. Fine. No more questions. Then we'll start with the next portion. Next portion here begins the Stuti, the glorification. Remember that Om we found not only in the Jnana Kanda, but Omkara is also prominent where? In the Karma Kanda and the Upasana Kanda portions. And here he is explaining how it is prominent. And he says, Om iti etat anukritihi. Anukritihi means acceptance. So you will find that in many ashrams, the word Om is used to convey command, is used to convey acceptance, is used to convey question, Like Bihar School of Yoga, for example, if you go and you ask for something, and if the Acharya says Om, that means it is okay, your request is genuine, accepted. But if you're doing something wrong, he'll come and tell you, Om. What does that mean? You're doing something wrong. Also, he can use the word Om to convey instruction. And so here Om iti etat anukritihi means the word, the mantra Om is used to convey the fact that I am amenable to carrying out some request from somebody or some command for somebody. The response is Om. So in this particular anukritihi, the response Om means, all right, I will do it. Okay. Okay is equal to Om. So in Karma Kanda, in the rituals, when the lead priest, when the chief priest gives a command, the assistant priest indicates compliance by saying Om. So when the assistant priest asks for permission to do something, the approving priest replies with Om. Okay, so these are the uses of Om in the Karma Kanda. That is why he's saying Om iti etat anukritihi. Om is used in the sense of acceptance of some command or some request. And of course, I told you ha, sma, va. So va here is vai. Ha, sma and vai. These are particles, expressions for indicating that this meaning is indeed well known, prasiddha in the scriptures. Then the ritualistic meaning of the ritualistic use of Om is now being mentioned. He says apicha. Api means moreover, also. So what does it mean? When the chief priest, the Advaryu is about to give the oblations, what is the step? The respective devatas have to be invited. So it is the job of the Advaryu to offer the oblations, but the invocations, the invitation to the devata is given by some other priest. And therefore the instruction, so therefore there is an instruction given by the Advaryu to the assistant priest to begin inviting the devatas. Okay. This Advaryu, before he gives the offerings, the devatas have to come and be seated. Right? You can't give the offerings if the devatas are not in front of you. So the first step is that Advaryu tells another priest, the assistant priest, to begin inviting the devatas. And the mantras are called praisha mantras. And the instruction to start the praisha mantras, the invitation mantras, it is given by using the word O Shravaya. So that you can see here, O Shravaya is there. Apyo Shravayet Ya Shravayanti. So, O Shravaya. Actually, O Shravaya is Om Shravaya. But the Om here is being pronounced as O. Om Shravaya. And what after that? Ashravayanti. In this manner, in which manner? O Shravaya. O Shravaya actually means he's telling the assistant priest, please begin chanting the Praisha mantras, inviting the devatas. So Ashravayanti, in this manner, the priest commands his assistants. Okay. Then Om iti samani gayanti. So each priest in a big yajna, each priest will handle a particular Veda, right? And for example, Yajurveda mantras are for offering oblations. The priest who uses the Rigveda mantra is called a Hota. Hota. And the chief priest, there is a chief priest, then there is an assistant chief priest, then there are assistant priests. Okay, these are all the complications of Karma Kanda. So there is the chief priest who is a Advaryu. Then there is a sectional chief priest handling a particular Veda. So let us say this is the priest who is using the Rig Mantra Vedas. So he's called a Hota. He has got assistant priests who will help him. And his assistants are called Hota Ganaha. So there's a Hota Ganaha, there's an Advaryu. So Yajurveda has a chief priest called Advaryu. And he also has assistants, Advaryu Ganaha. Right? The head priest of the Sama group is called Udghata. So you have Advaryu, you have Hota, you have Udghata. And just as you have Advaryu Ganaha and Hota Ganaha, you have Udghata Ganaha, the assistants to the head priest of the Sama group. What about the Atharvana group? Atharva Veda does not have any direct application in Vedic rituals. Therefore, the Atharvana Veda priest is not directly involved in chanting. He becomes a supervisor for the whole ritual. Right? And he is called Brahma. So here, this Brahma here is the chief priest who is a Atharva Veda priest, who is the main supervisor for the entire ritual. Because he does not have any particular role to play, he is the supervisor, right? And he will have 3 assistants who are called Brahmagana. Now remember that he has to see whether the other priests and their ganas are chanting properly. That is the main duty of the Atharvana priest. So you have Utaganas, you have Advaryus, and you have Udghatas. 3 Vedas are represented. And therefore, if this particular priest from Atharva Veda is to be a supervisor, he should be a Chaturvedi. Right? He should know all the Vedic mantras. So normally you will find this chief supervisor is the Chaturvedi. He should know all the mantras. But in today's rituals, it's very difficult to find a Chaturvedi. So you will find that in many formal, karma kanda rituals, there is one seat left vacant. That is for the Brahma, the Atharvana Veda chief priest. But then they couldn't find a Chaturvedi, right? So he has to know all the Vedas, otherwise he cannot correct. And all these four sets of people, when you hear the chant, you will find constantly the use of the Omkara. And that's why he says, Tatha Omiti Samani Gayanti Samagaha. In the same way, the Samaveda priest, they chant the Sama mantras, glorifying the Devatas, inviting the Devatas, and the Devatas are happy, and because when you invite them, they will come. And then he says, Om Shom Iti Shastrani Samsanti. In the same way, the Rigveda priest, the Rigveda priest is called Samsha Sitaraha. Samstra Samsitaraha. So here, Shastram Samsitaraha is the name of the Rigveda priest also. He's a Hota priest. He's also called Hota. But in some places you'll find that he's called Shamstra Samsitara. What is Shastram over here? Shastra Samsitara is the Rigveda priest, and here Shastram doesn't have the normal meaning of of weapon. So here Shastram has to be taken as the name given for the Rig mantra. And why Shastram? Because in these rituals, there are some times when the main Hota, the priest, Rigveda priest, has to sometimes chant the mantra without the swaras. And a mantra which has swaras but is being chanted without the swaras, that's swara rahita rig mantra. Remember, rig mantras are always having swaras. And therefore, when the priest has to chant that rig mantra but without the swaras, that swara rahita rig mantra is called Shastram. That is why the Hota, the Rigveda priest, is called Shastra Samsitaraha. Okay, the word here means a rig mantra, not a weapon. And when they commence the mantras, they start with Om Shom Iti. So that is up to this particular rig mantra priest. And then Om Iti Advaryuhu Pratigaram Pratigranati. So Tatha Om Iti Advaryuhu Pratigaram Pratigranati. After the Rig mantra, the Shastra mantra has been chanted, the Advaryu will express appreciation. He will say, well done. That appreciation is called Pratigranati, is appreciation. And this Pratigaram, the mantra by which the Advaryu expresses his appreciation, is called the Pratigaram. And so he says, Tatha Om Iti Advaryuhu Pratigaram Pratigranati. After saying Om, the Advaryu priest will express his appreciation, and this is called the Pratigara mantra. Okay. Then comes Om Iti Brahma Prasauti. So remember, we are talking now not about Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman. Here we are talking about the Atharvana priest, main priest, who is called Brahma. So Om Iti Brahma Prasauti. The Atharvana Vedic, the main Atharvana priest called Brahma. See, Atharvana Veda is, I told you before, not employed in Vedic rituals. The Atharvana mantras are not employed in Vedic rituals. They are mostly about conduct and all that. Therefore, the role is that of a supervisor. And while doing the supervision, he gives instructions to other priests to do various things, various activities. All the instructions, they start with Om Iti. So he says, Om Iti Brahma Prasauti. And Om Itya, you have to break that up. Om Iti Agnihotram Anujanati. When a priest is employed to do Agnihotram ritual, what should be a question when I say that? When a priest is employed to do an Agnihotram ritual, what should be the normal question?
Is it that Agnihotram is supposed to be Nitya Karma? So how do you employ the priest every day?
Very good. Agnihotram is a Nitya Karma for a Grahastha, right? Should normally be done by the Yajamana. But sometimes maybe the Yajamana doesn't know, he doesn't have time. So he employs a priest. And so there are Agnihotram rituals where a priest is employed to do the Nitya Karma, the Agnihotram. In such cases, the priest has to ask the Yajamana for permission to commence the Agnihotram. And so, Om iti eva. The Yajamana says, Om iti eva. That's what it means. Om iti eva Agnihotram anujanati. Once having got Om iti, which means please go ahead, please commence, then the ritual begins. And then Om iti Brahmanaha Pravakshyannaha Brahma Upapnavani iti. Upapnavani iti. Brahmanaha, here is the Vedic student, the Brahmin. Pravaksyan means to learn the chanting of the Veda. Pravarchanam, to do the Pravarchanam, chanting the Veda to learn. Therefore, Brahmanaha Pravaksyan aha. Pravaksyan is the desire to learn. So, Brahmanava Pravaksyan, the student having a desire to learn the Vedas, aha, he says, Om iti. So, he starts the project of learning chanting by uttering the words Om iti and Brahma Upapnavan iti. Upapnavan means the thinking. So, Brahma Upapnavan iti, let me learn this chanting, is the thought of this Shishya. Let me memorize the Veda, is the meaning of Brahma Upapnavan iti. That's one particular meaning. And Shankara says, this meaning, let me memorize the Veda, is from the point of view of the Karma Kanda. But there is another meaning from the point of view of the Vedantic student who wants to start the enquiry. Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. So Shankara says, from that meaning also you can take Brahma Upapnavaniti. Here, if it is the Vedic student who is learning chanting, then that is Saguna Brahman. So he is talking about learning the mantra Parayanam. And here, if it is the Vedantic student who wants to start the enquiry, then it is the enquiry into Nirguna Brahman, enquiry into Jnana Kanda. And here, Brahmanaha Pravakshana means with an intention to understand and become Brahman, let me learn. This also starts with Om iti. So therefore, there are two meanings. One is from the point of view of the Karma Kanda student, Dharma Shastra student who is wanting to learn the chanting. One is from the point of view of the student who wants to understand the Jnana Kanda. The same words, Brahmanaha Pravaksyan, can have either of these meanings, and Brahma Upapnavan iti can have either of these meanings. But in both cases, Om iti. They start with Om iti. May you practice the Omkara is the meaning. Okay, then there is a small rule here. We say that Om has to be there in the beginning of the Upasana, and you conclude the Upasana also with Om. So the rule is that in the beginning of a mantra, when you say Om, the length of the Om is 3 matras. At the end of the mantra, the length of the Om is 4 matras. I hope it makes sense. If it doesn't, I'll request Arvind to say the Om with 3 matras and say the Om with 4 matras also.
Om.
Okay, that is the Om with 3 matras. That is the beginning of a chant, of a mantra.
Om.
And that is the Om with 4 mantras. So matra is 3 matras, 4 matras. Okay, so the total period for which you chant is called the mantra. Right. Now, there is a tradition which says that Omkara Japa is prescribed for sannyasis. And when the Grahastha uses Omkara, Omkara is said to generate Tivra Vairagyam, very, very, strong dispassion. And therefore they say that a sannyasi can chant the Omkara Japa as a regular Parayanam because anyway he is supposed to be detached. He does not have family, no attachments, no possessions. So there is no problem about Vairagyam. But a Grahastha doesn't need to be having 100% Vairagyam because he still has to take care of his family and all that. And therefore Grahastha, when he uses Om, should use some Nama along with Om. Right? So remember, Shastra, when it says sannyasis, it talks about the sannyasis with the robe. Okay, formal sannyasis. But here we have seen again and again, especially in the Bhagavad Gita, especially in the last 2 or 3 Upanishads that we have done, that more important than formal, robed sannyasa, that is called Bahya sannyasa, external sannyasa. More important than external sannyasa is what? Antara sannyasa, internal sannyasa, mental sannyasa is more important. And therefore, as a grihastha, if you have reached the stage where you are a mental sannyasi, then Om is okay for you. Om is said to be necessary for a grihastha sannyasi when he is in the middle of bringing up a family. And therefore, this interpretation has to be taken properly depending upon what type of grihastha you are. If you are a sannyasi, very clear, Omkara Japa is fine. If you're a grihastha in the middle of bringing up and not yet, come to the Vanaprastha stage, if you're a grihastha not in the Vanaprastha stage, then Omkara with some other Nama, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namo Narayanaya, something like that. But if you have come to the Vanaprastha stage, you're already withdrawing, internal sannyasa has begun, then Om is fine. And for a sannyasi, whether he be a Bahya sannyasi or a Antara sannyasi, the rule is that when you chant the Om as part of your meditation, you should chant it as long as you can do. So, Dirga. It is no longer 3 matras or 4 matras. It is a very long Om. Om. Okay. The reason why we say that Grahastha should not, until they have reached the Antara Sannyasa stage, Grahastha should not chant pure Om, is because Omkara is capable of creating Tivra Vairagyam, extreme Vairagyam. And the sannyasi and the Grahastha will not feel like continuing in the Grahastha ashram. Therefore, you dilute it with a Nama Rupa, which leaves just sufficient Vairagyam for Jnanam, but not enough to leave the house. So these are all rules regarding the chanting of the Omkara. With this, the Anuvaka is over. I am open for any questions. Small Anuvaka, but a very, very important Anuvaka for us. Okay. Anybody?
Om, sir, I would like to just appreciate that the scriptures are also making allowances, knowing that Tivra Vairagyam is not good for a Grihastha or not very conducive to his life. So they
You
have
remember
made the
that,
allowances.
Vinita ji, you must remember that
Yeah.
the you know the Antara Sannyasi portion is a compromised view
Yes.
of the Gita, okay, of the scriptures. If you
Right.
look at Shankara's commentary, he will talk about sannyasa alone. But that is not
Only
always
sannyasa,
practical.
yes.
And that is why we say that we take the compromised version for us because 99% of people are grahasthas. And the fact
Yes.
that grahastha can get jnanam and moksha has been established in the scriptures so many times. So that proper meaning has to be extracted. That is why we
Correct.
say a compromised
Yes.
version is fine. That's why I'm saying that once Antara Sannyasa stage is reached, there is really no difference between the Antara Sannyasi and a formal sannyasi because
Pharmacy.
there really no difference in the mental state. And that is the real state of sannyasa.
Correct.
So
Yes.
giving up the robes is not. What is the
Yes.
pramanam for that, which Krishna has said?
I remember one of the verses, Raviji, but I can't recollect it. Where he
Anybody?
says Grihastha sannyasa is as good as a somebody who has taken the saffron robe sannyasa.
Yes.
We
but
have done it, yes. I'm unable to recollect, but that verse is there, yes.
Anybody knows?
Sure, there's one place where he talks about who the sannyasi is, says Nyayasta Nitya Sannyasi, Onat Veshti Nakamshati.
Yeah.
Right.
Then he says, Nahi asanyasta sankalpa bhavati yogi. You cannot become a yogi. You cannot become a sannyasi unless you have given up sankalpas. Nahi asanyasta sankalpa. So there are 2-3 verses in the Bhagavad Gita where he specifically indicates that real sannyasa is antara sannyasa and not bahya sannyasa. And therefore that meaning we have to pull into the scriptures. Remember, the Upanishad does not talk about that. But we have to pull that meaning in so as to make it more palatable for all of us.
Om Acharya,
Om June.
is there any reason why in the beginning of any ritual of Upasana, the Om should have 3 matras and at the end is 4?
It is a traditional chant rule.
Okay. Thank you.
Maybe Arvind can add to that if he knows a little bit more because he's chanting master. So
No, Raviji, I don't know.
okay. Fine. So with that, we'll stop for today. It's been a very intensive session, I know, but it's one of my favorite Anuvakas. And whatever has been said, we should recall time and again. So that whenever we chant Om, the entire background is there in our mind. With that, I'll stop. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Acharya. Thank